So, sir, if you can start off with, you know, uh, as in over a period of time, as the industry changes, as digitization is becoming more prevalent, as enterprises are adopting more and more digital solutions and more manual processes are getting digitized, the challenges faced by CISOs on the InfoSec front are also evolving. So, can you throw light on what are the kind of challenges which are faced by the CISOs as far as information security is concerned?
Yeah, good morning, and thanks to you for giving me the opportunity to express my opinions. A disclaimer over here is, whatever views which I am expressing are completely in person and personal, and not from in the organization capacity. So these should be taken completely at the personal level. So this is an exciting time, I guess, for the overall information industry altogether. There are many there are evolutionary concepts which are coming in at this moment in terms of blockchain, artificial intelligence, digitization, in terms of robotic process automation, and that's basically aimed towards increasing the efficiency and enhancing the productivity of the entire organization. But at the same time, if you look at the information security which is aligned to those platforms, then it is equally becoming challenging for even the security folks to keep in pace with those technologies. So as you know, basically information security, what we talk is basically a combination of people, processes and technologies. And we talk information security more of 80% as people oriented and 20% is related to technology. So from that perspective, the challenges are becoming more prevalent in today's world, with more and more exposure of the industry towards internet and digitization. It is becoming very challenging for the information security professionals to protect the content which is getting exposed to these platforms. And as you are aware, most of the organizations are moving towards perimeter-less kind of an environment, where that boundary between within organization and outside organization is becoming very thin. So the data exposure is becoming very prominent nowadays, and hence protecting this information, this data which is currently there in the organization in form of structured as well as unstructured, is becoming a big challenge at this moment for the information security professionals. On top of it, the regulations are becoming very stringent. That is something which is a development in the very recent times, where the even data protection law which is being introduced by Indian government, which is very analogous to what we have in GDPR. We are going to find it extremely challenging in terms of identifying that personal data and then giving the adequate protection layers to this particular information. At this moment, do organizations have the visibility of this data? It's not the IT department which is all the time, custodian. At this moment, when we have a shadow IT presence all over the organization, it is very difficult for the chief information security officers to get the complete visibility of the data, where it is lying, how it is lying, who is the custodian of this data, in what form the data is lying, whether it is there in the physical form, is it in the logical form, it is lying in a structured format, it is lying in the unstructured format. That data finding itself and giving adequate protections to it is a tough job at this moment for information security professional. And the third factor is basically the adversaries, which are becoming very sophisticated nowadays. We have seen the last year was belonging to ransomware. This year is belonging to coin mining softwares. Most of the organizations have had some sort of coin mining and attack in this year. What it does is basically it does not stop the organization from working, but it definitely hampers the productivity. It slows down the servers, it slows down the individual desktops and laptops, thereby decreasing the productivity of the machine, of the person itself. So it is very difficult. So when threats are moving from one form to another and they are changing their behavior very, very dynamically, it is very, very difficult nowadays for a CISO to adapt to such dynamically changing conditions and respond to it. So as we say, the mean time to detect the incident and mean time to respond to an incident has become a very, very important factor for any organization at this moment. So these are the challenges. Yeah.
Okay. So sir, as a result, can you share some best practices to be followed to maintain a robust IT security posture, as in, say some 5 or 6 best practices?
I see, the thing is that there are not only 5 and 6, there are 20 odd practices. But most important thing is that at least to the base level, organization should adopt some sort of a security framework, whether it is NIST, NCI IPC, or Information Security Forum, or ISO 27001. At least the basic discipline should be there, and that discipline should be measured and maintained. All the domains which are currently in related to information security, which is end user security, network security, software related security, internet related security, all those are very, very important domains, and organization should have adopted some sort of a security framework to measure the effectiveness of those domains and the controls associated with it, and they need to continuously improve upon it. The basic most important thing over here is not just to have policies and procedures over the table or in cabinet, but it is important to follow them, it is important to embrace them, and it is important to measure them. That is the most important thing all about. A lot of us have, in lot of organizations, you will still have noticed that acceptable usage policies exist, but there are senior level professionals, senior level management people who ask for the exceptions. Now, how do you take care of those exceptions? That is very, very important. It should come with a caveat that yes, we are giving the facility to you, but we will be monitoring your the data flow which is going out from this device. Unless and until these policies are stringently followed, unless these policies are communicated to the masses, people will continue to make mistakes. Whether it is advertently or inadvertently, the mistakes will continue to happen. So unless and until you have the security framework which has been effectively implemented and measured, this exercise is futile. So it is very important that the Chief Information Security Officer, whomsoever is designated within the organization, his primary responsibility is to measure how effectively the policies are implemented, how they are measured, how they are being reported into the management, and how on a continual basis they are improved upon. That is the most important thing at this moment for Chief Information Security Officer.
Okay. So sir, as you said, the importance of measuring, the importance of actually articulating the security framework, implementing it. So are there any ideal frameworks which comes to the top of your mind, which should be adopted first, followed by others, which covers all of these aspects very comprehensively in terms of measuring, managing, and then improving upon? So anything that you can talk
There are multiple frameworks which are available at this moment. So there is ISF which is available, then we have NIST, and our good old ISO 27001 itself is very comprehensive, and it is also getting matured over the period. But what I would suggest is the Chief Information Security Officer or the Information Security Department has to come together and basically create the framework of their own. because it is possible that one size fits all, that kind of a thing may not be possible, which may not be applicable to all the industries also. What is important is that what are the controls which are really applicable, what are the regulatory aspects which are really applicable. If there are any PCI DSS or related requirements which are applicable, then Information Security Department has to call out those requirements and come out with the security framework, which is a combination of NIST, ISF and ISO 27001 related frameworks into one framework, and somehow implement it to the best possible extent in an automated manner. Because most of the industries, if it is a BSFSI industry, they are well connected, because their businesses are very dynamic, and almost all the business processes are IT enabled, which may not be the case for the manufacturing and other industries and engineering industries primarily. The sites which are related to manufacturing and engineering are very, very diverse. They are sometimes located in premises which are very, very isolated in extreme temperatures, where the IT presence is very, very minimal. How do we monitor those environments? Unless and until there is some automated mechanism to monitor the posture of such sites, it is going to be very difficult. And whenever we are going to measure the maturity of the framework, unless and until the framework results are automated, it is possible that the data will be cooked and we will really not be able to get the correct picture. And security, as everybody knows, it is as good as the weakest link. If there is one remote load which is not patched due to whatever reasons, it basically gets compromised for whatever reason, it has a potential to come inside the network and penetrate into the organization. So again, as I said, basically the basic discipline of vulnerability management, patching, applying the security updates, applying the antivirus updates is very important discipline. On top of it, you have to be in a position to detect the incidents in a very, very agile manner, so that the possible impacts of that incident can be controlled in such a manner that the overall impact of the incident can be reduced to an acceptable level. That is what is the role of Chief Information Security Officer, because the incidents are going to happen, zero-day exploits are going to happen, and unless and until we are able to diagnose that such incidents happen and we are able to control it, it's going to be very, very critical to measure and detect those incidents in a timely manner and respond to them in an agile manner. That is what is going to be the key in near times to respond to such kind of incidents.
So sir, to do all this, the CISOs require budgets, which which at times becomes a challenge, because they don't get adequate budgets because there are constraints. So what's your view on budget allocation as far as information security is concerned? How should it be used? Because we have been hearing this for years now, that you should get the best out of the buck that is available, but the solutions are quite expensive. So how does the CISO actually juggle all these people, process, technology, bringing in security, bringing in a culture of security? Basically a view on IT budgets and the balancing part.
Okay, so culture of the organizations and IT budgets are two different things. So let's understand one aspect at a time. Let's talk about the budget. So if we look at the typical scenario around 2 to 3 years back, it was primarily the budgets were incident driven. So a lot of times people used to, or the industries used to undergo some incidents, and the budgets used to get approved. There was not much of a presence of cybersecurity at the board level, and information security was like a black hole which nobody understood and nobody wanted to understand. But the situation has changed very drastically in the last 3 to 4 years, because people have become aware. Not only they have become aware at the industry level, but they have also become aware at the personal level. Look at the incidents which are happening currently related to personal, personal level related to credit card frauds, or phishing emails which are going to the personal email box, or even the social media related incidents which are happening on Facebook, etc. People have become aware that it is their own reputation is at risk. There are their own financials at risk if they don't take proper precautions. And the same people are currently, when they are representing the organization, that visibility, that maturity has come. So information security officer representing posture of the organization in a board meeting, which was not happening earlier, now it is happening. He is getting adequate support nowadays in terms of getting the necessary manpower allocation or budgets in the senior management. He is getting a good amount of voice as far as information security matters are concerned. So the visibility within the company, the board is increasing for information security and department and the information security officer. The maturity is increasing, the visibility is increasing, and hence the budgets are also increasing. The only question is, how do we justify the budget? That is the most critical part. Security is like an insurance. There are multiple formulas and things available to justify the investments of security. It depends on how the information security officer represents those investments. It is definitely possible to measure the cost of the incident and hence justify the budget. So those things are available. Only thing is that CISO, for a CISO nowadays the biggest challenge is the technology selections. There are plethora of technologies which are available at end user level, at network level, at peripheral level, and at cloud level. How does he collaborate the combination of technologies so that they work in a collaborative manner within each other, so that let's take an example. If user experiences an incident at the laptop level, then in that case the threat is of a zero-day attack. It gets detected and immediately the knowledge gets passed on to the networking and other communities, so that the adequate firewalls rules come into the picture and they get modified, and similar kind of traffic it is coming in from outside, then in that case it gets blocked immediately. And also that kind of threat intelligence is shared across other departments, other group of companies. That kind of agile framework is needed, and for that all those technologies have to work with each other. Let's take an example. If I have a semantic at my endpoint, it gets an alert and it eventually gives information to the checkpoint firewall to block such traffic. Then that kind of collaboration will be very, very important, where one technology platform talks to another technology, so that the information security posture of the organization gets protected. That is very, very important, I would feel, because with the plethora of technology which is coming into the picture, it is very important that these technologies work within each other in a collaborative manner, so that they protect the overall security posture of the organization. Especially in the non-regulated industries like manufacturing or engineering, it is very, very crucial. Or I can say in all the industries, it is important to have security by design culture inculcated and practice also, because we see that information security is more aligned towards people rather than technology. We see information security as 80% people and 20% technology. Technology piece is also very critical, but it is 20%. What that people part is, it's very, very crucial, because we implement antivirus policy, we implement USB related policy, we implement software design policy, but if people are not going to follow it, they are not going to embrace it, then there is absolutely no point, because that one weakest link is going to create a big hole in security. So let's take an example of software design, and we train people on the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, but for whatever reason the developer fails to implement those practices and implements weak SQL injection or introduces cross-site scripting vulnerability or any buffer overflow vulnerability, then in that case it is very much possible that the organization data will go outside or the site will crash. Anything can happen if these kind of vulnerabilities get introduced into the environment. Unless and until that discipline is there within the organization, that the code without testing will not go into production. Similarly, at end user level, whenever any user is going to get the machine, unless and until it's an approved image which has blocked all the games, all the USB related ports, all the DLP related, antivirus related components appropriately installed, the holes will continue to come into picture and they will get exploited. So that discipline is very, very crucial. The discipline of rolling out the infrastructure, whether it is at end user level or server level, or basically whenever you are introducing any new technology program, you have to have security at the heart of it. At any point of a time when the code is being designed, the software portal is being designed or a site is being designed, right from the design to test to production to again the retirement, security has to be an integral part of it. So that at any point of a time, if there are any lapses, security will be there to help you out, to highlight those lapses and possibly avoid those lapses in time, to avoid possible losses in the future. So that the culture of security in overall working of the environment or the organization is very crucial, and it needs to be practiced very, very rigorously.
Okay, so just one last question on the importance of skilled manpower in cybersecurity. We have found that not many graduates who are coming out of the colleges are not employable, although they have the degrees, but they don't even know the basics of security as far as putting it on the ground, as in implementing it is concerned. So what are your views? When you hire people, what are the kind of skill sets that you desire in them right now when the world is changing so fast, technology is changing so fast? How do you balance the whole part where you see some basic characteristics which are there but not up to the mark as far as the current security scenario is concerned, on skill sets, on hiring, if you can talk about that.
So there are two parts to it. One is basically the part where you have to create that security culture within the organization, and the second part which is associated with is rolling out of the technology. Now where we face the maximum challenge is on the second part. People who understand technology at heart are very, very scarce. People who understand the vulnerabilities at the code level, people who understand vulnerabilities at the network level, at end user level, understand it and then take action. That is the part which is very crucial, but that's where the challenge is. Organizations to a great extent can outsource this part, but when it comes to collaboration within the organization, let's take an example. When a particular incident comes into the picture, then in that case, whether that incident has impacted only a particular user or a particular network segment or the entire location or the entire company, at various level, if the incident has occurred, then in that case how you should collaborate and address this incident, you need a person who has a good amount of technical knowledge and a collaboration skill. So that person will be there as part of the organization. He needs to know who is in charge of what and accordingly take the necessary steps to control the incident. Similarly, he is the person to take the knowledge of the incident and hence percolate the knowledge of this incident to the entire community and take the necessary remedial measures. Now this person can definitely be part of the organization. The second part, which is related to identification and containment of the vulnerability or doing a regular testing of the environment, that part is very crucial, and for that you really need a trained manpower. like a person who is trained in SOC related technology like Splunk or ArcSight, or a person who knows OWASP top 10 vulnerability, or who has adequate knowledge of Nessus kind of a tools, that parts can be outsourced. And that is generally the strategy of the organization, because it's very difficult to retain the manpower. How long he will keep on continuing to work on the same environment, how long he will keep on continuing in addressing the same set of vulnerabilities. So that is the reason for an organization to get the manpower and retaining is a big challenge. Unless and until you give them challenging responsibilities, they are not going to remain. So to some extent, the technology related manpower which is required, and it's not possible for our organization to retain such manpower, that part needs to be outsourced. The part which is the second part, which is very critical to design the security, to maintain the security and coordinate, that part needs to be there with the organization, and for that purpose organization needs to train such manpower, and that manpower is generally available within their own environment. They are the people who know the organization, they are the people who know the people within the organization for coordination purposes, and these are the people who know security technologies a bit. They don't need to be a complete domain experts, but these are the people who can be groomed to take the overall responsibility of information security. So that manpower needs to be trained by the organization. So we have this multiple approach. We are grooming the people within the organization to train them on information security aspects, and the technology related part we are planning to outsource to the expert organizations.
Okay, so just one small question about open source. So your views on open source and enterprise security.
Open source will get adopted eventually, and it is being adopted. And with open source, you need to have very stringent testing practices. That is very important, because the open source web services, APIs are becoming very prominent nowadays, and no organization can shy away from the open source technologies. And it is imperative that with the digitization, introduction of AI, ML and other technologies which are primarily built on open source, it is imperative that the organizations will go for it, will adopt it. The security needs to be equally agile in terms of adopting it, but needs to have a very robust testing methodology associated with those open source technology inductions. And it's very important to have that agility to test those open sources within the environment.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. That's it.